For 5 centuries, the crossroads of Europe and Asia has been known as Istanbul. Once, it was called Constantinople. A Christian island in a Muslim sea, it withstood every assault by the warriors of Allah. In 1453, the Sultan besieged the city with a new army, men sworn to lay down their lives for him. An army of slaves, they were the sword of Allah and the scourge of Christendom. In the 15th century, Christian Europe stared into the face of unholy terror. Rising out of Asia Minor like a whirlwind, the Ottoman Turks stormed into Eastern Europe. City after city fell. Christians trembled, and the Pope called for a new crusade against the heretics of Islam. The Turks did not fear these holy warriors, for the Sultan had his own, his elite infantrymen, the Janissaries, respected by Muslims, dreaded by Christians, and surpassed by no one. Bukri Haydar was a Janissary, a slave, the personal property of the Sultan. Islamic law forbade enslaving Muslims, but not infidels. A 14th century sultan spared the lives of Christian soldiers taken as prisoners of war in return for their unswerving loyalty. Legend has it that a holy man dubbed them Janissaries, the new troop, destined to spread terror wherever they went. These were the first Janissaries.
Whenever the Turks invade foreign lands and capture their people, an imperial scribe follows immediately behind them, and whatever boys there are, he takes them all into the Janissaries and gives 5 gold pieces to each one and sends them across the sea.
The Ottoman Empire was soon growing faster than its army. In 1438, the Sultan levied a tax on every Christian family under his rule. The payment, one of their sons. Every 5 years, the Sultan's representatives scoured the countryside to collect the tax. He could not take an only son nor a gypsy, since gypsies were considered unreliable, but any other healthy boy between 8 and 18, like Bukri Haydar. From their Balkan villages, 2,000 recruits were marched hundreds of miles to the Sultan's court. At the Ottoman capital, Edirne, Bukri Haydar was rigorously tested in mind and body. How he fared would decide his service. The most gifted were sent to the Sultan's palace to be trained as his bodyguards. In time, many would lead his government and his army. The majority of slave boys were destined for the rank and file of the Janissary Corps. Bukri Haydar was first sent to the estate of a Turkish noble to work as a farmhand. There he learned the Turkish language and faith, surrendering his Christian name for a Muslim one. 3 or 4 years later, he returned to Edirne to learn a trade: masonry, carpentry, or blacksmithing. The future leaders of the Janissary Corps had a stricter education. Supervised by the chief eunuch, the boys were kept at the Sultan's palace under lock and key. For cadets like Bukri Haidar, training could continue for 8 hard years. Wrestling, weightlifting, swordcraft, lance throwing, horsemanship, and archery.
They have the adroitness to shoot their arrows so very accurately that they hardly ever fail to hit man or horse.
In 1444, alarmed at the spread of the Muslim Empire, the Pope declared a holy war. Against the Crusaders, Bukri Haidar would put his long education to the test. At the Black Sea port of Varna, Christianity and Islam met in battle. The Christian leader, the King of Hungary, formed his lines. On his right, mercenaries and French knights. On his left, soldiers led by Vlad II, the father of Count Dracula. Across the field, the Sultan likewise placed himself in the center, with his trusted Janissaries.
The Janissaries before him, and behind them the camels, and a trench is made up all around, and a rampart heaped up next to it.
The Christians attacked. They charged the Turkish right so fiercely that the line broke. On their left, the Turks counterattacked just as hard.